Today's life simulation. The man who went $340,000 into debt saving his daughter's life. It is 3:42 on a Monday afternoon when your daughter collapses during soccer practice. You're still at work when the school calls. The number belongs to the front office, but the voice on the other end is not the receptionist you know. It is the school nurse, speaking quickly, asking whether you are Lily Carter's father. She tells you Lily complained of chest pain during practice. She became dizzy, sat down on the field, and then lost consciousness. An ambulance is taking her to St. Matthew's Medical Center. You ask whether she is awake. The nurse pauses for half a second. She says the paramedics are working on her. You leave your computer unlocked and your lunch container on the desk. Your supervisor calls your name as you run toward the elevator, but you do not stop to explain. The hospital is 14 miles away. At that hour, the highway barely moves. You call Lily's mother, your former wife, but the call goes directly to voicemail. She is on a flight home from a work conference and will not land for another 2 hours. You call the hospital. A woman asks for Lily's full name and date of birth, then tells you she cannot provide information over the phone. By the time you reach the emergency entrance, your shirt is wet with sweat. A security guard asks you to slow down. You tell him your daughter is 8 years old and arrived by ambulance. He points you toward the registration desk, where a clerk asks for identification and an insurance card. You can hear alarms behind the double doors. The clerk asks you to confirm your address. You give it to her. She asks whether your insurance information is current. You say yes. She asks you to sign a form allowing emergency treatment. You sign without reading it. A nurse appears and brings you into a small consultation room. She tells you Lily is alive. She is breathing with assistance, and the doctors are running tests. Alive is the only word you hear. You sit in a vinyl chair beneath a clock that makes a small clicking sound every second. There's a box of tissues on the table and a framed photograph of a lake on the wall. You stare at the lake for 26 minutes. Then a cardiologist enters. He introduces himself as Dr. Rahman and sits across from you. He explains that Lily appears to have a congenital heart defect that was never detected during routine examinations. An artery supplying blood to part of her heart developed abnormally before birth. For years, her body compensated. It cannot compensate anymore. You ask what that means. Dr. Rahman says Lily needs surgery. You ask when. Tonight, he tells you. You ask whether it can wait until her mother arrives. He says no. The room becomes very quiet. You ask what happens if you do nothing. Dr. Rahman looks down at the scan in his hands. He says she could suffer another cardiac arrest, and the next one may not be reversible. A nurse places several forms on the table. You sign them. There is no discussion about price. There is no comparison between hospitals, no opportunity to search for another surgeon, no time to call the insurance company and ask whether everyone in the operating room is covered. Your daughter is dying. You say yes. Lily is conscious for less than a minute before they take her upstairs. Her face looks smaller beneath the oxygen mask. Several wires disappear beneath her hospital gown. You hold her hand. She asks whether she's going to miss school tomorrow. You tell her probably. She asks whether you remembered to bring her backpack. You realize it is still on the soccer field. You tell her you will get it later. Then she asks if she's going to die. You tell her no. You say it too quickly. Lily studies your face, trying to decide whether you are telling the truth. You squeeze her hand and tell her that you will be there when she wakes up. A nurse begins moving the bed. Lily keeps looking at you until the doors close. The surgery lasts 7 hours and 18 minutes. Your former wife, Rachel, arrives halfway through. She walks into the waiting room wearing airport clothes and carrying one shoe in her hand because the other broke while she was running through the parking garage. You stand when you see her. Neither of you knows what to say. The two of you have spent 4 years learning how to communicate through calendars, school pickups, and short messages about homework. Now you sit beside each other beneath fluorescent lights, sharing the same fear. At 2:11 in the morning, Dr. Rahman returns. The surgery was successful. Lily's heart is beating on its own. The next 24 hours are important, but he is optimistic. Rachel begins crying before he finishes speaking. You lean forward and place both hands over your face. For the first time since the school called, you allow yourself to believe your daughter will live. Lily spends 9 days in the hospital. You sleep in a chair beside her bed. Rachel sleeps on a folding cot. The two of you take turns going home to shower and bring clean clothes. Lily complains about the hospital food. She watches the same animated movie 4 times. She names the heart monitor Bernard and becomes angry when the nurses remove it. On the 5th day, she asks to see the scar. The nurse helps her sit in front of a mirror. A thin line runs down the center of her chest. Lily touches the bandage and asks whether it will disappear. You tell her it will fade. She asks whether people will notice. Rachel says only if Lily decides to show them. Lily thinks about this and says she might tell everyone she fought a shark. The three of you laugh. That afternoon, a hospital employee visits the room with a tablet. She calls herself a patient financial counselor. She asks whether you have received an estimate of benefits from your insurance provider. You tell her you have not. She says the hospital will submit the claims and that you may receive separate statements from the facility, the surgeon, the anesthesiology group, the ambulance company, the imaging department, and several specialists. You ask whether she can estimate the final amount. She says it is too early. The word amount remains in your mind after she leaves, but Lily is walking down the hallway for the first time, holding a nurse's arm, and you choose not to think about it. Your daughter is alive. Money is a problem for another day. The first bill arrives 3 weeks later. It is from the ambulance company. The amount due is $3,840. You assume there has been a mistake. The ambulance traveled less than 6 miles. You call the number on the statement. The representative explains that the service was considered out of network. You tell her Lily was unconscious. She says she understands. You tell her no one asked which ambulance company you preferred. She says she understands. She offers a 12-month payment plan. The next statement is from the anesthesiology group, then one from the emergency physicians. Then the hospital sends a document that is 17 pages long. The original charges total more than $600,000. Insurance adjustments reduce part of it. Some services are approved. Others are marked pending. Several are denied because the providers are outside the plan's preferred network. You read the final line 3 times. Patient responsibility, $340,216.48. You earn $58,000 a year as an operations supervisor for a packaging company. After taxes, health insurance premiums, child support, rent, utilities, groceries, and the loan on your car, you usually have a few $100s left at the end of the month. You have $7,400 in savings. For most of your adult life, that number made you feel responsible. Now it looks almost meaningless. You call the insurance company during your lunch break. The first representative transfers you to claims. Claims transfers you to medical review. Medical review tells you an appeal must be filed in writing. You explain that the surgery was an emergency. The representative says emergency services are covered, but some physicians working inside the hospital are independent contractors. You ask how you were supposed to know that. She says she understands your frustration. You begin to hate that sentence. You submit an appeal. 28 days later, it is denied. You submit another appeal with a letter from Dr. Rahman explaining that delaying surgery would have endangered Lily's life. The second appeal is marked under review. While you wait, the hospital begins calling. At first, the representatives are polite. They ask whether you want to pay the balance in full or discuss monthly arrangements. You tell them you are waiting for the insurance appeal. They make a note on the account. A week later, another person calls and asks the same questions. You begin carrying a folder everywhere. Inside are claim numbers, dates, names, extension numbers, and notes from more than 40 telephone calls. Each conversation begins with you explaining that your daughter almost died. Each conversation ends with someone saying there is nothing else they can do. Lily returns to school. She cannot participate in sports for 6 months. She has follow-up appointments every few weeks and takes medication every morning. You place the pills beside her cereal bowl. She begins collecting the empty bottles because she wants to build a robot from them. You help her paint one silver. You do not tell her that every appointment generates another statement. Rachel pays what she can. She works as a sales coordinator and earns less than you. The divorce agreement divides medical expenses between you, but neither of you has enough money to divide $340,000 in any meaningful way. The two of you stop arguing about old grievances because the bills require all your available energy. You sell your car first. You tell Lily you want to use public transportation because it is better for the environment. She believes you and tells her class that her father is helping the planet. You begin waking up 45 minutes earlier to take 2 buses to work. Next, you sell the motorcycle you bought after the divorce. Then your guitar. Then a watch your father gave you when you graduated from high school. The watch is not especially valuable, but you keep it in its original box and wear it only on important occasions. You take it to a small jewelry shop near your apartment. The owner examines it beneath a bright lamp and offers you $620. You almost leave. Then you think about the ambulance bill. You accept the money. At home, you keep the empty watch box in the top drawer of your dresser. You're not sure why. The payment plans begin at $2,700 per month. You tell the hospital that amount is impossible. They reduce it to $1,900. You tell them that is also impossible. A supervisor explains that balances of this size require significant monthly payments to prevent collection activity. You ask what happens if you cannot pay. She tells you the account may be transferred to an outside agency. The phrase outside agency sounds harmless. It is not. The calls become more frequent. Letters arrive in envelopes marked urgent. Your credit score falls. A bank rejects your application for a consolidation loan. Another offers a loan at an interest rate so high that the total repayment would nearly double. You begin working evenings at a home improvement store. 3 nights a week, you leave the packaging plant at 5, eat in the parking lot, and start the second job at 6. You get home after 11. On weekends, you make deliveries. Your apartment becomes a place where you shower, sleep, and store unopened mail. Lily notices that you are tired. She asks why you work so much. You tell her your company is busy. She says it seems unfair that they make you work every night. You agree. One Thursday, you fall asleep at the kitchen table while helping her with fractions. When you wake up, a blanket is around your shoulders. Lily has finished the worksheet by herself. There is a note beside your hand. Dad, I didn't wake you because you looked like you needed it. You fold the note and place it inside the empty watch box. 6 months after the surgery, Lily is cleared to run again. Rachel and you stand beside the school track while Lily completes one slow lap. She is careful at first. Then she moves faster. The scar is hidden beneath her shirt. Her hair moves behind her in the wind. She crosses an imaginary finish line and raises both arms as if she has won a race. You clap until your hands hurt. That evening, you receive notice that the second insurance appeal has been denied. The letter says the services were medically necessary, but the amount billed exceeds the allowable rate. You read that sentence while the video of Lily running plays on your phone. For a moment, you understand how a person can feel grateful and furious at exactly the same time. The debt begins affecting every decision. You decline invitations because restaurants cost money. You stop visiting your brother because gasoline and highway tolls cost money. When your shoes develop a hole, you place cardboard beneath the insole. When the refrigerator makes a grinding sound, you turn the temperature down and hope it survives another month. You do not take Lily on vacation that summer. Instead, you pitch a tent in Rachel's backyard and call it camping. Lily roasts marshmallows over a small grill. She asks whether you can do the same thing next year. You say yes. You feel guilty because she is happy with something that cost almost nothing. On the anniversary of the surgery, Lily gives you a red paper heart she made in art class. The folds are uneven. Your name is written across the front in blue marker. Inside, she has written, "Thank you for saying yes." You ask what she means. She says she remembers hearing the doctors ask you whether they could operate. She remembers being frightened and hearing you say yes. You tell her any parent would have done the same. She shakes her head. She says you did it. You place the paper heart inside the empty watch box beside her note. That night, after Lily is asleep, you open the hospital website and look at the remaining balance. $287,604.12. You have paid more money than you have ever spent on anything in your life. The number still appears almost untouched. For the first time, You wonder whether you will die owing money for the operation that kept your daughter alive. 2 years pass. You receive a promotion at the packaging company. The raise is modest, but you accept every overtime shift offered. Your weekends remain divided between deliveries and Lily. You attend school plays in your work uniform. You answer collection calls in parking lots. You memorize the names of hospital billing supervisors. Lily learns not to ask for expensive things. When her classmates get new phones, she says her old one still works. When Rachel offers to buy her brand name shoes, Lily chooses the cheaper pair. You tell yourself this means she is responsible. Part of you knows it means she understands more than you want her to. One afternoon, when Lily is 12, she finds a folder. You left it on the kitchen counter after calling the hospital. She opens it. When you return from the shower, she is sitting at the table with the original statement in front of her. She points at her name. Is all of this mine? You take the papers from her. It isn't yours. But it happened because I got sick. You were a child. Are you still paying it? You tell her that adults have bills and that she does not need to worry. She asks how much is left. You refuse to answer. Lily begins crying. She says she will stop taking piano lessons. She says she does not need a birthday party. She says she can get a job when she turns 14. You sit beside her and tell her the debt is not her responsibility. She says it feels like it is. You take the red paper heart from the watch box and place it on the table. You wrote that you were thankful I said yes. She nods. I would say yes again. Even with all this, especially with all this. Lily looks at you. You tell her money can be earned again. Time cannot. You tell her there is no version of your life in which you choose a smaller bill in an empty bedroom. She wipes her face. Then she asks whether you regret anything. You think about the second job, the ruined credit, the watch, the missed vacations, and the constant fear of another envelope. You tell her you regret that saving someone can cost this much. You do not regret saving her. The next morning, Lily places the hospital statement back inside the folder. She begins asking questions about the heart. Not about her own heart, but how it works, why defects happen, and how surgeons repair them. You find medical books at the library. She reads them at the kitchen table while you sort bills. At 14, she volunteers at a children's hospital. At 16, she spends a summer helping in a cardiology research program. At 17, she tells you she wants to become a doctor. You tell her medical school is expensive. She looks at the folder and says she already knows what expensive looks like. By then, the hospital balance is below $200,000. A patient advocate has helped you challenge duplicate charges and apply for financial assistance. Several fees are reduced. Interest is frozen after months of negotiation. The debt no longer feels endless. It only feels extremely long. Lily earns a scholarship to college. On the morning she leaves, you load her belongings into Rachel's car. There are 2 suitcases, a lamp, a secondhand microwave, and a box of medical textbooks. Before getting into the car, Lily hands you an envelope. Inside is $1,800. She earned it working at a pharmacy during the summer. You try to return it. She refuses. You tell her the money belongs to her. She says the life belongs to her too. You eventually accept half. The other half, you hide inside one of her suitcases. College changes the rhythm of your life. There are fewer school pickups and more late-night calls. Lily calls when chemistry becomes difficult. She calls when a professor recommends her for an internship. She calls when she's accepted to medical school. You're standing in the home improvement store, arranging boxes of light bulbs when she tells you. You sit down on a step stool between 2 aisles and begin crying. A customer asks whether you are all right. You say your daughter is going to become a doctor. The customer smiles and congratulates you. He does not know the whole story. Most people never do. Medical school takes 4 years. You continue paying. The balance becomes $91,000, then $64,000, then $38,000. The watch box fills with receipts, notes, photographs, and every red paper heart Lily sends you. You no longer think of it as an empty box. It contains the years after the surgery. On graduation day, you wear a rented suit. Rachel sits beside you. The 2 of you are older now. The anger from the divorce has softened into something closer to friendship. When Lily's name is called, She walks across the stage wearing a black gown. A stethoscope rests around her neck. You stand before the applause begins. Later, outside the auditorium, Lily asks you to wait while she gets something from her car. She returns carrying a small gift bag. Inside is a watch. It is the same model your father gave you. Not the exact watch. That one disappeared into a jewelry shop years ago. This one has been restored and engraved on the back. For every hour you gave me, you cannot speak. Lily fastens it around your wrist. Then she hands you a printed receipt. The remaining hospital balance has been paid. You look at the amount. $21,486.32. You ask how she found the money. She tells you part came from her signing bonus, part from savings, and part from Rachel. You tell her she should have kept it. She tells you the same thing you told her when she was 12. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. That evening, the three of you drive past St. Matthew's Medical Center. The building looks smaller than you remember. Lily asks whether you want to stop. You park near the emergency entrance. Ambulances arrive beneath the same lights. Families move through the doors carrying bags, jackets, and fear. You stand beside your daughter. She is 29 now. The scar on her chest has faded into a thin white line. You touch the new watch on your wrist. For 16 years, you measured the surgery through invoices and monthly payments. You treated the debt as a second emergency, something that had to be survived one shift and one paycheck at a time. Now that the balance is zero, you understand that the money was never the full price. The price was the sleep you lost, the pride you swallowed, the possessions you sold, and the ordinary years you spent afraid of the mailbox. But standing beside Lily, you also understand what you purchased. You purchased the camping trip in Rachel's backyard, the slow lap around the school track, the college acceptance letter, the medical school ceremony, the doctor standing beside you beneath the emergency room lights. You did not go $340,000 into debt for one surgery. You went into debt for every ordinary day that followed it. That is where this simulation ends. If this life felt closer to home than you expected, subscribe. The next one may begin with an ordinary decision that changes everything.